Welcome everybody in the next episode of PLM Global Green Alliance, speaking with PLM related vendors related to sustainability. And this time it's a reunion after 2 years talking with Darren West with SAP, and we have Stephan as a new guest in our series. And today we will discuss the sustainability value offerings from SAP. But first of all, Stephan, Darren, I would like to introduce yourselves and please tell us what is your relation to sustainability. Stephan, can I start with you?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me here today. So my name is Stephan Fester. I'm based in Hamburg, Germany. I'm for a long time with SAP, all the time in services. So I'm very much into the customer conversations, and the last years I was responsible for setting up partnerships with our customers, because I believe in the long-lasting partnership between the customer and SAP. And my relationship to sustainability is, on the one side, privately, I'm a huge EV fan. So I have 2 EVs, I have a solar panel on my roof, so I believe in this kind of energy supply. And secondly, discrete manufacturing is the core what I did the last years, and I think it's now time to close the cycle.
Okay, thank you. And Darren, we know you, but again...
Yes, thanks for having me back, Jos, Klaus, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you guys about what SAP is doing with sustainability. For those that haven't met me before, I am in our sustainability product team, so responsible for developing lots of new products, and my speciality is circular economy. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about kind of like what we're up to in that topic.
Yeah, and maybe we can catch up where we left off last time, or 2 years ago, basically. I think SAP just launched a few months earlier one of their sustainability products, RDP, Responsible Design and Production, if I'm getting this right.
That's right.
I'm just curious what happened over the last 2 years, and what has SAP done with RDP, with customers, and where are you with this kind of development?
So yeah, Klaus, it's been very successful since we last spoke about responsible design and production. So just to refresh the listener's memory, so you know what it is, this was our first product in circular economy, very much focused on the challenges of plastic waste, and packaging in particular was a big issue for our customers. So what SAP Responsible Design and Production does essentially is it helps a designer of packaging to minimize waste, but also to cut down on extended producer responsibility fees. And now there are also single-use plastic taxes out there as well. So to help them minimize that by using more recycled content, and also designing their packaging to be more recyclable downstream. So that's what the product does. It's picked up really well. I'm very pleased, actually, as one of the guys involved in launching this product. So when we spoke to you last, we just launched it. I think it was about 3 months old.
Right.
It's now been in the market a couple of years. We've got over 60 customers, mainly in Europe and North America, but spreading out all over the world. And we've got a nice steady stream of kind of geographic expansion of all the features to do with EPR and plastic taxes.
And could you say anything about leading countries here? You said Europe.
Yes, so things like Germany and France, for example, the Dualis system, Deutschland, the Citeo system, CONAI in Italy, in Spain also we've got the Spanish plastic tax. Eco Embres, I think it's called, in Spain. The UK, we've got that in there. And our plans are to expand to Portugal and Austria in 2024 as well, and also enhance a little bit because Germany have just updated their laws to have also a single-use plastic tax as well. So what we're doing is we're making life easy, or easier, I should say, for designers of products, in particular packaging in this case, to understand what are all these different complicated regulations, to understand how that applies to their products, primary, secondary, tertiary level packaging, and then kind of mash that all together so that they can take a view and go, okay, if I design a product in this way, what's the environmental impact of that? What are the costs of that? If I maybe do it slightly differently, using slightly different materials or different recycled content, what is the impact of that? So that's what we started out doing. And then I'm very excited about the exciting news for your listeners is how we then move and connect that product to the sort of classic PLM design tools.
Okay.
So one of the things that we've built, and that's just launched literally in January, was a sort of eco-design capability. So what we mean by the eco-design capability is essentially you can say, okay, I have some design rules. Let's suppose I want my company to be 100% recycled content, right, for example, or I want to get rid of PVC because PVC can't be recycled in packaging. That's really bad. I can't use it, you know. So you may just set some rules, some guidelines that your company wants to follow.
Is the focus still on packaging? Or?
For now, yes. But in the fullness of time, hopefully towards the end of the year, we're going to be able to go into the product. So first of all, we set those rules in responsible design and production. And then it can check all the packaging. Towards the end of the year, what we're going to be able to do is feed those eco-design assessments into our PLM product, which some of your viewers will know called Enterprise Product Design. And this is the first step of integrating sustainability products into the suite of products that we call DSC. The digital supply chain products. Anyway, this is quite exciting because this then leads on to, okay, once you've got design feeding into the sort of engineering design of a product, then you can start to then look at, well, how do I make the whole thing circular? And that's one of the things that my colleague Stephan will talk to you about is how can we make manufacturing become circular through things like take-back systems, remanufacturing of parts and the like. And he's done some fantastic work, you know, talking to manufacturers about how we can, you know, set up SAP systems to make those circular loops happen.
Okay, yeah, for sure. We are interested in that. Stephan, what is your highlight at the moment on the circular manufacturing?
I mean, the first thing is that all the customers, they feel a lot of pressure from the regulations.
Right.
And when we talk to the customers, it's very often the question, how do I get access to the data so that I can calculate the KPI properly? But this is just the reporting piece. Mm-hmm. What we are focusing on is the process, because the last 50 years, SAP supported the customers to have the perfect, efficient, fully automated linear process. Mm-hmm. And the good thing is, and the good news for your listeners, is that you can use the majority of the capabilities we have invested in the last decades also to support the circular way of production. I mean, this is the first thing. What we see sometimes that the reporting department and the circularity department and the rest of the company is a bit of siloed. Mm-hmm. So we also mentioned, and we also have seen that the circularity departments, they are not aware of what is already available in SAP, right? So as Darren said, he was focusing on design, but then we have the design to operate process, where we have also plan and source, we have manufacture, distribute, and operate. And then finally we said, let's put some more capabilities to the end of life process, because end of life means at a certain time, the customer decides to give the product back or he wants to buy a new one. And then it's a point, how do you incentivize the customer to make sure that the customer sends the product back? What is your strategy to collect the stuff? I mean, there are so many different possibilities to do that. And finally, you need to triage. I mean, you need to decide what is it, what you want to do with the product. Is it that you want to repair it, refurbish your manufacturer, or even recycle? And this is one of the most important decisions for a customer to take because it is not just to refurbish, but also some customers they follow the strategy to harvest spare parts. I mean, even spare parts are important when it comes to circularity.
A question on the beginning when you mentioned that all those activities often were operated in silos and creating reporting was already a challenge. Yeah. Do you see within your customers really activities to bring those people together? Is sustainability becoming part of the business implementation and circularity? Or is it still people bottom up pushing for more attention?
I mean, it will take some time. It will take some time. But what we see, for example, in the battery industry, I mean, whenever you deal with batteries, there is already a regulation in place called the battery passport.
Right.
And what we did as SAP for many years, so we kept material flow and financial flow in sync. But what we see in the future is that you have to keep the material flow and the data flow in sync, because if you don't know what is in your product, what does it consist of? I mean, what material were used to produce it? You cannot ensure an automated and efficient circular process, neither refurbishment or recycling. So batteries, for example, it's super important to know what are the material the battery is made of before you start a recycling process. If you mix the wrong batches, the wrong batteries, you will not get the highest possible efficiency for recycling. So the battery passport and the future the digital product passport is key to make sure that you run this cycle properly and efficiently.
Exactly. As the EV guy, you know all about batteries,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
it really
yes.
is a complete new market where we, I think also have a lot of attention for recycling and for circular because of the scarce materials.
Absolutely. I mean, but also there it is important that you deal with the right incentives, because what I've heard from the market is that there are some companies who just focus on recycling of batteries, but the second use of batteries is even more important, because why should you scrap a battery if you could have a second life? I mean, and this is also true for all of our other customers who deal with discrete products. And what is also important to mention that today the decision, what do you want to do with the product, is mainly based on financial KPIs. In the future, you will have three different criteria. First one is financial, second is material, and third is sustainability. That means it might be in the future that you decide to refurbish a product because you need the material, although a new product might be financially more attractive. Or the other option is if you put out an ambition, that is what we see very often if we talk to our customers and we visit the website of our customers, there is ambition to reduce carbon emission by N% till 2030, whatever. But do they have a plan to make sure that they will reduce the carbon emission by a certain percentage point? Mm-hmm. And therefore, it's important that they go in with planning. I mean, we as SAP, we are now inventing a new currency called carbon emission. And we see also customers who are setting budgets for carbon emission. And if you would have a budget for carbon emission, you need to plan properly. And this actually is then the next decision criteria. It might be financially not attractive to reuse a product. It might be from a material point of view not attractive to reuse a material, but from a sustainability point of view, to achieve your target, it might be a better decision to keep the material in the flow. So this is a kind of eye-opening discussion we have with our customers all the time.
And on the SAP side, you're very much on the data side from already.
Maybe I could chip in there just with a comment, because one of the things that we talk about, and you may have started to hear this from SAP, is this concept of the green ledger. So as Stephan mentioned, you've got like the financial flows, you've got the material flows, but you've also got, if you like, the carbon accounting that goes with that. And if you want to get to net zero, the obvious things to do is switch to renewable energy, etc. Make your machines more efficient. Great. Okay, that gets you some of the way. But the only way you're going to get to net zero effectively is to start to recirculate materials, because when materials are reused and recycled, their footprint is way lower. Sometimes it's zero, but it's usually just a marginal amount compared to a completely new part. So that's how they're going to get to net zero, is to start to create these circular economy loops. And that's a fascinating kind of interplay then. And the Green Ledger at SAP is this concept that we can do the carbon accounting to the same level of accuracy that we do the financial accounting. So a lot of customers of SAP will use our software to do their financial reporting. A lot of customers use it for logistics flow and manufacturing and PLM, of course. But what they haven't cottoned onto yet and realized is, well, hold on a minute. If we got all of that, then we can actually do very, very accurate carbon accounting in SAP, and that's what we call the Green Ledger. And there are products that we're building to do that. So you'll be able to have, if you like, two balance sheets, the financial one and the carbon one.
Yeah, will the Green Ledger focus on the carbon side, or will it include also other aspects of life cycle assessments like water?
Well, initially, we're going to start with carbon because obviously that's what everybody's focused on, getting down to net zero. But yeah, you're right. It will widen out. And that, again, that's where circularity metrics get really interesting because some of your listeners will know that circularity includes regeneration of the environment. So there you look at things like water impact, you look at nature impact and land use. And so the idea is you start to incorporate those metrics as well into the recording. So you can then make a design decision and a manufacturing decision based on, okay, well, what is the impact on nature? What is the impact on water? What is the impact on carbon if I do it in these different ways?
And the question I had also on the Green Ledger, Darren, is that you can report on currencies, and there are only a limited number of currencies. But if you report on materials, of course, there are thousands of materials. Are you having any access to global databases with material properties, etc., or are you collecting them yourselves or your customers?
I mean, one of the things we mentioned last time, I think we talked about this very briefly, was this concept of the digital product passport. And that was 2 years ago, right? And there's been, it's still very, very popular. But now as part of the EU Green Deal and also part of the ESRS, so the Sustainable Product Directive, where you're looking at, creating products and reporting on those products, then you have to have effectively a digital product passport. So you need to know for your product, how do I recycle this? How do I take it apart? How do I, dispose of it after its life? And that has to be published, and that has to be in a format. But the same applies to component parts that feed into a bigger product. So the ability to read in and kind of output to a digital product passport is how this data will flow across the supply chain. And that's, it's one of the challenges also that we've been looking at with batteries. And I'm sure Stephan's got some stories about that he can explain to you.
Yeah, I think I want to chip in because very often we are talking about data, even if it's related to the battery passport or product passport. But what is more important, that if you read the regulations carefully, you also see what you should do on a process level. Because at the end, the data is created in a process. And if you do it properly, then the analysis of the data will also influence the process again. So being SAP and, we are providing end-to-end fully integrated systems, it might be not the best idea to download the data into a lake and then try to analyze the data and create a passport out of it, because the majority of the data is anyhow in our system. So it starts with procurement. You get all the data about the product, dangerous goods, you get the product compliance data, whatever. I mean, it is in the system right from the beginning. And I think this is also something that needs to be considered if you think about the regulations. It's not just the data, how to deal with data. It's also what process and capabilities do you need to have in place to make sure that you have the data available and to generate the data to calculate the KPI actually, right? So this is what we see and discuss very often. It starts with proper master data management. I mean, old, boring topic, but it's get more and more important, super important. And then, okay, the next step in the process.
Yeah, the discussion currently with IT departments, if they try to get their sustainability data organized, reminds me like PLM discussions we had in the 90s, because back then nobody knew how to organize bill of materials and documents and CAD data and these and that. So it reminds me pretty much of this time frame discussion we have currently. So
yeah, but guess what? SAP has a very well-designed data model. I mean, take it and fill it. I mean, that is very, very kind of rely on.
That's quite a pitch.
So maybe one interesting point, Stephan, when we talked with Darren 2 years ago, he mentioned also when it was about data sharing, the upcoming of Catena X. I understand, of course, if you are working in discrete manufacturing, Catena X in Germany, is something that is also close to you. How much is SAP involved, and can you give us an update? What is the status of Catena X at the moment?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, it's important to mention that Catena X is an association.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not owned by SAP or Siemens or BMW or Bosch and all the others. It's an association. The operational company, or the company that operates the network, had many different shareholders, and it's not just Germany and Europe, it's even global nowadays. So what I've heard yesterday, even CATL is now part of Catena X, the big battery cell producers. I mean, this is great. And the most important thing is to share trustfully data, but not just data. Whenever you connect to Catena X, you also apply to a rule book, meaning there is for sure a carbon emission use case in Catena X, but the question is, and that is what I discussed with other customers, what are the rules to calculate the carbon emission? The good thing is, once you connect to Catena X, you also apply to the rule book. That means whenever you get a carbon emission data via Catena X to your system, it is based on the rules and the regulation and the policy that the parties signed up earlier. I mean, this is then well defined. So you don't have to debate with all your suppliers again, okay, how to calculate carbon emission. It's defined by the use case in Catena X and later also in Factory X, which is then the next network that will come.
Okay. Is Catena X a kind of a replacement of the digital product passport for the automotive industry?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So Catena X is an independent network where you can share trustfully data, and for that we have different use cases. Let's start with capacity and demand planning. You can ask your network, what is the capacity, what is the demand? There's one use case. The other one is also for battery to share data, or traceability and others. So it's more use case based.
Okay. But I think, yeah, it's the future of digital connected networks where you still have your own sovereignty of information. And
exactly, yeah. I think this is also important to mention. It is not a database. It is not like EDI. You keep your data in your system and you just request the partners to share data. And this is the main difference.
Right. Klaus?
Yeah, I mean, the same question is valid there, right? How to get this then back? Basically integrating this into the design phase again. Any thoughts how this, I mean, if RDP is in the future part of the engineering process, can we pull Catena X data and present them to designers to use them, or is this just too far away? Is this more a procurement thing and collaboration thing?
I mean, first of all, it's collaboration. And for example, if you think about the automotive industry, I mean, the used cars are like a warehouse, right? If you have a used car and you don't use it anymore, and you know it's more or less scrap today, but actually it's a warehouse. And all the OEMs thinking about how to harvest the spare parts. The question is, what is in this car? And there's one use case that you can, with the VIN, so vehicle identification number, you can get access to the data to know what's in this car. I mean, even this information is like gold, because then you get access to the material and, as I said, at the same time, it's the information you need to take a decision if you want to take it back. I mean, it is a completely different thing.
So it's far beyond carbon discussion, right?
It is far beyond.
Okay.
And I can also only invite your audience to go to Catena X website and see what the current use cases are, and go to YouTube's watch fun videos, and go to Hannover Messe, right? End of April.
That's another good point. Yeah, we'll be at Hannover Messe. Come and see us.
April is coming again. Yeah. For me, and in some of the discussions I had, I see Catena X as the future of modern business, connected business.
It is. I mean, because the whole topic of circularity is an ecosystem play. It's just an ecosystem play. When we think about how to take back products, I mean, it's not that you do it. You have your partners. If you think about circular design, you talk to your suppliers and you deal with your suppliers in a kind of partnership, that they design the products properly, that they reduce the carbon emission. It's just an ecosystem play, and it's good that there is not a single provider and single owner of a network to share trustfully data. I think this is the most important thing.
Yeah. And we as a PLM Global Green Alliance, we're starting with PLM, we are asking ourselves, how do we get connected there? Huh? I mean, how do we get people in R&Ds driving to work different, to work with data? Do you have any experiences with that with your customers? That it's really an integrated project to implement a circular economy?
What I discuss with customers is that the R&D department gives the feedback that they could either design a new product, an innovative product, or they design an existing product for circularity. I mean, they can't do both at the same time. It is, like always, a limitation of resources. I mean, this is the discussion I had so far, but nothing more in detail.
I think that will change. I think that'll start to change, because if you look, there's a number of pressures on why. There's the carbon debate that we had earlier about, reducing carbon, getting to net zero. They can't do it without the circular economy. There's also regulatory pressure. And one of the things that's happened in the last couple of years is the CSRD reporting has become a lot tougher. So, for example, there's these new ESRS regulations. E1 is about carbon. But E2, E3, E4, E5, they cover things like water, land use, wildlife impact, recycled content, and companies are being mandated to report on this stuff. So they're having to show for all of their processes, what is the impact, and circularity is a big piece of that. So sooner or later, they're going to start to think joined up. And, kind of in our world, your listeners as well, they're probably thinking, well, okay, PLM has a role to play here. Having that data in one place,
Yeah, I mean, if I reflect on what I see in my ecosystem, we talk about it, but we see in the R&Ds not so much change yet. Huh? I mean, it's really the regulations that have to push people to do things different. And when you said, Stephan, innovation or make a product more circular, I think my first impression would be, if you want to make a product more circular and you have to give in some of the features, then people won't like it, because they have something to compare to. So sometimes it's better to innovate and to come with something new than to improve an existing product.
But I think also one reason is that I think in the engineering education process, there's still a lack of knowledge about LCA and how to apply it and how to use it. That's also a reason why I think the resources are short to really address everything, because at the end, the engineers do not have the knowledge really to read these kind of data. So that's why I think it's so important to get these data back into the PLM system or whatever design systems they use, so they can really apply their knowledge and integrate basically sustainability in their decision gates and requirements models and so on.
Yeah, and there's another point that drives some changes. This is the scarcity of materials. I mean, some of the materials are getting more and more expensive, and it's quite difficult to get hold of it. And this means then there is a pressure to survive. I mean, to make sure that they can harvest the material out of the used products. And some of the customers try to keep the material flow under control. So think about batteries. Yesterday I had a big discussion about circular marketplaces. And they said there will be big marketplaces for used EV batteries. I said, no, I don't believe that. The reason is the following. If you as an OEM put a lot of efforts to get the raw material and finally the batteries into your cars, right? I mean, then you want to keep the material flow under control. Imagine you as an OEM, you sell a car, you forget the car, and then the customer sells it to somebody else, and then your competition gets the raw material because the recycling rate is 90+%. I mean, this is nonsense, right? So there is a tendency to find a way to keep the material flow under control. And this is also a big trend, depending on the product, like always, but this is also a trend.
Because here we are still talking about selling products, but also product as a service allows you to have the material also under control, or much better.
There's a new concept that you hear about in the car industry quite a lot, but maybe your listeners have started to hear about. It's called material accounting. So the idea is that you can keep ownership of the material even though you might not do the reprocessing. And it's exactly for the reasons that Stephan was explaining, like materials are getting scarce, so you want to hang on to them. So you basically retain the ownership of those materials. You send them for reprocessing. You have maybe an SLA with a reprocessing company. You say, I'm going to send you 100 tons. I want 90 tons back of refined material that I can reuse, So those kind of things are starting to crop up now. And again, where do you store that data, right? You have to store it in some kind of PLM system or some kind of, enterprise software system that says, I've got 90 tons of material coming and it's from this supplier and, I sent them 100 tons of, waste material, etc. So all of that accounting needs to happen. Otherwise, companies are starting to find, I can't get this material that I need at the right price, the right volume, the right quality, so.
I mean, that's where we have our dreams of virtual twins in design, in production and operation.
Yeah, but I think we have to mention another big thing, which is AI or Gen AI.
Mm-hmm.
So today, what I have discussion with customers who are thinking about the reverse bill of material. So what is then the bill of material for the refurbished product? I mean, if you take a product apart, then you have some part that needs to be, I call it polished, which is not the right term. Mm-hmm. Some of them needs to be replaced and so on. But is it in 2024 still the time that you define with your whatever system PLM an R-bomb in all the details and say this product A will be replaced by product A dash or whatever? Or is it that you're using Gen AI tool, analyzing the PLM data, the bill of material as serviced? I mean, this is, by the way, a tricky thing because many companies don't know what's out in the market, but nevertheless, so PLM data, bill of material as serviced, plus some other knowledge, and then you get the recommendation how to refurbish this product. Because we have some customers who have products out in the market for decades because they are able to upgrade their products, right? So many different concepts, and we actually, we are just working on this Gen AI idea to see what is possible with the data available and the technology available to support the remanufacturing and disassembly process, right? This is key. So we don't want to actually invest in any rule-based systems to say this is the R-bomb for the disassembly. We look directly into Gen AI and see how can we leverage the data from PLM, ERP, service, and so on to have a better refurbishment process.
Yeah, it's an interesting vision, and I say let's talk again in 2 years from now. I mean, because I have the feeling a lot is happening, and AI is probably a trigger that is working everywhere, where people are triggered to take action. But it also requires data and exposure of information, which is in many companies still the discussion. Except for AI, any other topics that we should explore in our PLM Global Green Alliance in the context of SAP coming up?
So what I'm currently discussing is the circular marketplaces. So we have also a product, we are working on a product for circular marketplace. And this is, sometimes I call it eBay on steroids, right? But at the end, you need to find a way to get enough products back so that you have the economy of scale, that you can set up a factory for that, or that you have a third party doing stuff. I mean, if you have an ecosystem where you use distributors or installers to deal with your product, I mean, then you don't have access to the end customer. So the question is, how can you get access to the end customer and incentivize the end customer to send it back? Or what is the best way? I mean, therefore, the circular marketplaces will be important. And this week I was in Barcelona and I visited the World Mobile Congress. And the circularity for all this stuff like mobile phones, routers, network equipment, and so on, this is a big thing. And imagine, do you think that everybody needs the newest and latest iPhone? Or is it sometimes good to go with the 2 years old one as long as it's refurbished? I mean.
Yeah. So here I'm happy with a Fairphone.
Very good.
In theory, still upgradable, as long as I have it.
Yeah.
Darren, anything news from your side?
Yeah, I think what you'll see also, as well as the circular marketplaces, is as it comes back to one of the things that Klaus mentioned earlier, which is about, other than carbon, what other metrics are there that you're looking at? And things like water impact is one, also land use and nature impact. And what you will need to do as a designer or a kind of manufacturer is think about what are the various trade-offs, between things like material cost, recycled contents, carbon, water, nature impact. So you're going to have these trade-offs. So you're going to need systems that can do complicated optimization to help you to choose that. And again, AI could be used to do that, to kind of optimize your material choices and your design and your business flow or business process flow. So you'll probably start to see a bit more of that as well, I would say.
And before AI, I was first thinking already on just modeling. Huh?
Just modeling, yeah, scenario modeling, but then optimizing the flows. Yeah.
Good. I think we spent a fantastic half an hour on looking into the future and what is possible. So Stephan, Darren, thanks for the update. Klaus, any final questions from your side?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
Always great to have you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for your latest insights and looking forward to meet 2 years from now again.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.